More than ready, right? Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I want to say, first of all, thank you for coming to one of the last programs on the last day. Woo! All right. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. So, well, it's been great. Great. This class is about a course that we put together, and it's kind of, I like to think of it as Frankenstein, because it's got everything I've ever seen from any conference I've ever attended since I became a law librarian. And I've been to everything. So, in fact, Margaret, who is my co-instructor, that's her up top, she said if I bring back one more technology for this class, I'm in trouble. So, needless to say, we have quite a lot of stuff going on. What I wanted to, this is our site, which I'll get to in a moment, and what I really want to say first of all is, please, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. There's nothing more boring than me sitting here talking endlessly, so you're welcome to ask anything you like. And I hope you'll forgive me for sitting. I have my ankle in a brace, so if anybody can't see me or hear me, I apologize. In fact, a good thing would be for me to turn the mic on. How's that?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone would tell you I'm too loud to be a librarian, so I don't really usually think about mics. So this is kind of what I made up, and we called it course crafting. And one of the first things we talked about was how this was kind of a mashup, which brings back fond memories of Las Vegas, but that's another story. Cali in Las Vegas, yay. So it's kind of become this thing that's kind of grown out of what we even intended when we first started the class. And even though it is specific for us to foreign and international legal research, I think the principles of what we're trying to do can be expanded to a lot of different research and skills hybrid classes. For instance, the regular moot court with advanced legal research or something like that. So I'm Marin Dell. I'm at Florida State. And let me first introduce you to the two other people that are responsible for putting this thing together. We actually, in the beginning, 2 years ago, had two classes. We had a Jessup Moot Court class, which was taught in the fall, and it's a one-credit pass-fail class. They do memorials for the Jessup program, and the top 4 students get sent to the Moot Court competition in the spring. And Donna Christie is the one who teaches that. Then there is Margaret Clark and I, two unassuming law librarians who didn't know what they were about to embark on. We had a real hole in our curriculum, we felt, because we have an Oxford program, we have an international law certificate, and we didn't have an international and foreign legal research class. And so we said, you know, we really need this. Margaret is one of the, even before I got to Florida State, she was doing these things basically for each person individually who's going off to another, you know, the Hague, or we have a lot of students that go to the tribunal. And so she was basically just teaching this thing over and over again individually. So we put this class together as a one-credit pass-fail class, and we envisioned it 15 people max. And that was going to be stretching it and crazy. You know, we were just like, oh. And even pass-fail, we were worried about assignments and things, and we were very busy. So we said, we'll do this in the spring. It'll all be fine. Well, the first time we taught it, it was a one-credit pass-fail class. We had 10 students, and that was in the spring of 2008. Well, one of our students was in Jessup, which was taught in the fall, and she said, oh, I wish I'd had this class. I didn't know anything about foreign and international legal research, and you know, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Jessup program, but the memorials that they have to write, the briefs for that program, you really need an exhaustive and extensive list of resources. And if you can't do that research, you're kind of behind the 8 ball. So she said, I wish I'd had this class when I was in Jessup. And Margaret said, why don't you tell Professor Christie that, thinking that we would just get some props. And instead, we wound up being swallowed up by the Jessup class itself, because she just looked at what we were teaching and said, we really need this. Okay, so that's kind of the background of how this whole thing came about. So there was 1 credit, pass-fail, 1 credit, pass-fail, and we were sitting at a faculty workshop one day, all around the table, and we were saying, how can we do this? How can we put this together for the Jessup students and still keep our students who don't want to take Jessup but want to take this research class? And I remembered that there was a presentation at Cali about putting some classes online, and that what the ABA regulations were. I believe it was Ellen from Stetson who had put that presentation together. And so I said, you know, she only teaches her class for 3 weeks. She does 2 hours for 3 weeks, and then they go off and do their thing. And so we said, okay, well, we can put our class online for 3 weeks, and we'll all kind of meet up, and we'll take your students for the rest of the semester, and the Jessup students will get 2 credits, and we have some people just taking the Foreign International Legal Research class, they'll get 1 credit. It seemed so simple. What happened was we had a very short period of time which put it together because we thought we weren't teaching for a year, and what we wound up doing was teaching that very fall, the very next fall. So we just had a couple months to put this together. What we did was, like I said, we combined the class sections for her. What that meant, though, was that she has a huge class with a cap of 30. And we have a cap of 15. So potentially we went from 15 students to 45 students, which is a very different ball of wax, basically. What we have is a hybrid class, so that we do face-to-face. She does her students face-to-face for 3 weeks, and everyone in the class does the 3 online classes. And then we all meet up together again, and we finish out the rest of the semester doing foreign and international legal research. We do a lot of different instructional technologies, which I'll talk about in a moment. And one of the most important things I learned from we have a teach-in every year for new teachers at FSU, and we had someone come in who said, if you're doing something new that you've never done before, survey the students about it. So I took that to heart, and I surveyed them within an inch of their life. I had 3 surveys. The first one was kind of one of those surveys that you get when you bubble in the answer. And as a student, I always thought, I don't really know what this means. Do the learning objectives meet up with the, that kind of technical jargon that's on there? So I decided that I really wanted to know what they thought. And I really wanted to get almost everyone to give me these back so I get a good sample. Because we wound up with 22 students. And so what I did was I offered a 1-point extra credit for the first 2, because they were about a page. They were about 5 or 6 questions. By the end of the semester, in which I was convinced we would never teach this way again, I wanted to make sure I really got what they thought. And so I offered 3 extra credit points, and it was like 3 pages long. Well, needless to say, everybody but 1 person turned it in, because law students will do anything for extra credit. I know it was me. And so we got a really good response back. And I wrote that so that it was in plain English. And I will actually show you some of the questions. But I wanted to really give them an opportunity to vent. We had some technical difficulties, which I'll talk about in a minute. We had some Jessup students who felt like this was sprung on them and they didn't realize what was going on. And it was just a good lesson in the fact that when you're doing something new, that professor was absolutely right. Make sure you survey the students and make sure you respond to them when they have legitimate concerns, and give them all the opportunity you can to express themselves, no matter what that might be. And I think the good thing about our surveying them all through the semester was that they were able to vent at that time instead of letting things fester. And in addition, there were things that were clearly misconceptions that we were able to take a look at and say, you know what, we need to address this in class. And so that was, I think, one of the most valuable things that we did. Okay, so, like I said, we talked about this already. Let me go to the things we use. We do, at FSU, we have a Blackboard platform that we teach off of. And the thing about FSU is Blackboard has become crazy. I mean, we're not using the regular, the Lexis Blackboard, or we're not using even what they bought to begin with a couple of years ago. Our Blackboard has morphed into something that's like one-stop shopping for everything, and it's just crazy. But our law students, they don't use it that much. We have a lot of online programs, and the undergraduates, they're very used to using it. The law professors, not so much. They'll post maybe the syllabus, maybe some announcements, but for them to use it the way we want to use it, I really kind of got the idea we need to do a tutorial, we need to really show the students where things are. It seems self-evident to you if you've used it before, and for students who have not come from an online environment, they've never taken an online class before, it's very confusing, and every professor can set it up differently, even though there's specific modules, every interface can look different. So that was one problem. I said, do you guys know how to check your grades? And they all gave me that law student stare, And I was like, okay, so you don't. And they all gave me it again. And, so we had a little thing where I could, show them how to check their grades, and like their whole world was opened up. So one of the things we're going to do for the fall is create a Camtasia tutorial about Blackboard. You think, these are law students, that's too basic. No, you have to really understand what technologies your law students are using, what they're comfortable with. We use Camtasia. Does everybody know of Camtasia, screen capture? We started out with Camtasia, and I'll show you one, as the main platform for the online classes. That didn't go over so well, and I'd like to talk about our perfect storm of technology in the fall of 2008, because we had a new operating system. Students came to school with Vista for the first time, which the law school refuses to support or run. We had a new edition of Adobe come out that conflicted with Camtasia, and you had to download an additional file to make the sound play right. I don't know if any of you have Camtasia, you realize that. I didn't realize it because I had rendered videos just about a month earlier, and then spent all summer editing them, and then when there were like chipmunk sounds in the middle of my Camtasia video, of course I thought it was me. As it turned out, it wasn't me. It was a conflict with Adobe. Okay, so what else? Presentation Pro was another piece of software that we used that takes voiceover PowerPoints and makes them flash. It's a great, great presentation for the students because they don't have to download that big audio PowerPoint file, except It's great for about 20 to 30 slides, and when you get above that, it doesn't want to work, just so you know. We found out that out the hard way. So we had all these technology problems. And people who are in a face-to-face program, they are very intolerant of technology problems, despite the fact that 3 librarians and their IT department were at their beck and call 40 hours a week for a month. So in the end, and this was actually part of the survey, I said on one, I gave one of those double questions, and it said, if I had technology problems, and it gave a couple of answers of what you might have done. One was I saw somebody and they fixed it right away. One was I was able to resolve it myself. And the last one was I just waited for it to be fixed. Well, down later it said I was able to do my assignments with no problem, true or false. The only 3 people who couldn't do their assignments were the 3 people who didn't see anybody about their technology problems. So I decided those were my 3 cranks. Because nothing we did was going to make them happy from that point forward. But the other ones, we got some really great information from, and we are altering the class because of it. The other instructional technologies that we're using now, we also use Callie lessons because Callie has great lessons on our topic. And we also have decided to, based on the student surveys, include MediaSite. And MediaSite is the technology where you have like someone talking with the PowerPoint running. And this was in response to the final question on the survey that said, and I thought I worded it nicely to kind of give them a hint. And I said, would you rather watch 3 5 to 7 minute Camtasia videos as your class time, or would you rather watch 1 hour of a MediaSite presentation? And I gave a little screen capture of what it looked like. And to a person, they chose the MediaSite. And I wonder who these people are, because I would rather do 15 minutes of something that tells me exactly what to do versus somebody who's just talking to me like I'm in a classroom. But I think that goes to show you the differences between the student perception of what their class should look like. Because our class, our law school, is somebody sitting there talking to you. And I'm in an online program right now at Florida State. I don't expect that. I don't want that. I want less. And I want to know the same information in a shorter amount of time. So that's what we're actually going to do in the fall, a comparison and say, okay, now do you want the MediaSite or do you want the Camtasia videos? Now that they don't squeak anymore. And we'll see, if that was a real perception, or if that was what they really wanted, or if they just were irritated with the technology problems and thought, oh, this will be better because that looks more familiar. So me and my extra credit points are going to be busy in the fall. The other thing is that we're going to use Captivate, which has the ability, which is a little bit different screen capture, and has the ability to put in quiz questions. And so we'll do a little something at the end so they can hand that in. And we're using those because we found that our students are sharply divided in their interests. And we wanted to do upper level topics. But people who are interested in international trade are not interested necessarily in international human rights, and vice versa. So you inevitably get people zoning out for a whole hour. So now we're going to do 5 upper-level Captivates, have them pick 2 of their choices, and have them print out the quiz, and then that will be their class, and they will get the international law topics that they want rather than what some consensus of the class is. We use PBWiki, which is, I guess, PBWorks now. Still comes up under Wiki, but we use that for our final project. We have them do a wiki page, which I'll show you. And the latest thing is Lib Guides. We are actually doing Lib Guides, and they're not public yet, mostly because the most amazing ones in which are done by Margaret Clark, who I will show you hers. It's like Michelangelo did a Lib Guide. I haven't even had time to start yet, so my picture isn't on there because my stuff's not on there. So you can see we've got technology. Bring it on. We want to try it and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay. Questions? All right, I'm going to take you to our site and show you some of the stuff. This is our Blackboard platform. We have announcements. This is for our new class, so it's not quite filled out. We wind up with a bunch of stuff. Here's our syllabus. The syllabus we do real general because we don't want to mess with it. We have enough to mess with. The important thing is, let me pull up our class schedule. So what happens is, or what happened last time we taught it, was that we went into Professor Christie's Jessup class and brought our research students in. And we did a very short introduction to, what the class was about. And it was about 15 minutes. No, not enough time to mark our territory, as I like to say. So this time, I basically told the instructors, if we don't have the first class period, we're not teaching it this way, because we need to establish what this class is about. It's too different to not do that. So we have our class introduction, and that'll be a face-to-face class. And then the shaded area are our 3 online classes. And this is when Professor Christie will be meeting with the Jessup students, getting them ready to do their thing, and all of our students will be doing the online assignments. We have Westlaw, our Westlaw rep, and I are doing a Captivate video based on his presentation that he did for us last time, which was really great, but we just don't have a class period for him now. And so I really wanted to be okay with his supervisor that he would get credit for doing it. So this is going to be his presentation for us. And we're hoping actually to make that available to other schools who are teaching this, because even though we're comparing it, we're giving Westlaw co-credit. And so it's a really great presentation on their resources and search strings for Westlaw as specific to international topics. And then we also have the same thing for Lexis. We really are trying to emphasize some basic search skills in the beginning because they're not there for the most part. We were doing the Lexis and Westlaw at the end, and they need it up front. Treaty research and customary international law and general principles. Those will be, they used to be Camtasia videos. Now they will be media site. And in fact, we'll post the Camtasia, but that's optional. And let me show you what that looks like. This is our weekly schedule. And Margaret has her media site up, so I will show that to you. So this is what the student will see when they do this class for the first time. Okay. Well, it looks like it doesn't want to play because IT always locks me out of my own computer. But So you will be able to see it, but basically this is the PowerPoint side. If you've seen, I'm sure you've seen media site and media site presentations before. If you haven't, contact me and I'll send you the link. And then Margaret will talk here. And actually it worked out really well that this was one of the ones that we media cited because this is a really hard topic. It's something that takes a long time to understand. So the students can go back to it and they can look at it again and it's archived for them. So that actually I think worked out and I think that they will be happier with that. Previously, the presentation might have looked like this. And let me go back to the weekly schedule. We'd be under tutorials. And as you can see, this is my last semester's attempt to accommodate everyone under the sun and all of their operating systems and all of their problems with technology. So we did like a Heiner line trees and force video, and this is the Camtasia that was squeaking and swirling and whatever.
This is behind online.
Okay. Well, that is what it looks like. And it's just
Camtasia video. In order to assist you with your homework problems and to help you
these are the technology problems that we have. And we really did try to match those videos with the homework problems very closely. Like I said, the minute you have a technology problem, lost. Okay, so basically that was those are the things that we did to hybrid the class. Other things that we did was the final wiki project. And we have treaty guidelines and suggestions, but this is something that I also saw at a Cali presentation where I believe it is Washlaw is the site, Washburn School of Law. And I just liked the idea that this wasn't something that was going to be lost to the students once they left the class. And so we have the wiki for our class. We have a treaty index where we have all of our students create these final projects, but not so that they do it like a librarian and never see it again. We actually have some that were very interesting. This is human organ transplantation. And so we're trying to get the students so that they can go back if they're looking for a job in the international field and say, you know, this is what I did. I put this together, and they have work that they can show that they don't have to hunt for, that is online and will always be available for them. We do a treaty index, but you can also take a look at it by the semesters and to view the students by names. If somebody's looking for a job, it's a good thing to take a look and see what kind of quality work they do. We have some good students, but it's a pass-fail class, and the bar isn't very high, and so they can kind of slide by. We're trying to change that with the grading a little bit, but in general, I'm real happy with what they've done. So this is another technology that we incorporated for our class. One of the last things I want to show you is the Libguide that we put together. Because like I said, Blackboard is not comfortable for everyone. And if you're used to it, you're used to it. But if you're not used to it, it's, you know, where is everything? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I look at it and I think, what did we do this semester? What categories did we use? So, under the weekly course schedule, student view. Under class introduction, we have, one of the other things we did was a viewing statement that says, you watched these videos, you did this thing. If you did, you know, if you sign this paper, it is a honor code violation. And that actually came into play because we had some people that had to leave our class. And we used actually the signing statement and the introductory video to say, you haven't done what you were supposed to do, you know, you're going to be going, and this is why. So if you do something like this, make sure you have a signing statement that really lays out the fact that, you know, tell them, I did this, I did it on this day, and really, even if it's not an honor code violation, I guess, make sure you put that in there because it can be important. So this is the one that we put together for the fall. We have the different things that we expect them to do, and then this is the good stuff. Okay, so the Libguide. I don't know how many people are using Libguides right now, but they've become they're becoming popular. We don't have ours published yet because we just got the technology. We're kind of working on it during the summer. But good old Margaret, she's a firecracker, and she just did this Libguide. Let me show it to you because it's a work of art. I'll show it to you in the window. There's Margaret. This is everything you ever wanted to know about international foreign legal research. Feedback, tutorials, these are Cali lessons. This is a list of the guide and what it contains. My picture's not up there yet because you can see what my page looks like. Oh, thank you, Margaret. Margaret's actually filled in my page. She's so good to me. But we even are able to put in our PowerPoints for our class so that the students can never say, I didn't see where it was on Blackboard, because this they can understand. This they have links to everything. And so I'm trying to, I think it's the customary law and international principles is where most of these are filled in. This goes, you can also link to other Libguides. And so this is the human rights legal research one that Margaret has put together. So these are all the different types of things that we've tried to do to make this class more accessible to our students, despite the fact that they're very resistant to this. I mean, even 3 classes online is a little too much for them. And so, you know, one of the things I said after the first survey was, I know you all, one of the first surveys we got back, it, you know, said additional comments and said, I didn't get my money's worth. Which I thought was kind of humorous because when they're in class and I'm sitting in on someone's class, I see a lot of emailing going on and a lot of surfing the web. And so I'm not really sure how that, you know, what that statement meant. But the thing that I told them was, you know, I understand you want this to be all face-to-face. In a perfect world, it would be. We do not live in a perfect world. This is what the class has to be if we are going to be able to do this. And, you know, that's one of the feedback that I gave them right after that first survey. And I tend to talk kind of turkey to my students. So, you know, they expect that. I'm not going to be unkind or harsh, but I feel like I have to address things that are not right or that they have a misconception about. So that was the first thing we talked to them. And we're always, I have to say, Margaret and I we emphasize the fact that we are there all week, every week. Our door's open, all semester. So anybody who didn't come to see us with problems gets a little bit less sympathy than people who do, because we truly try to accommodate everyone, and we know how stressful law school is. The student surveys were very illuminating, because they also highlighted the fact there was a misconception about how the Jessup students wound up in our class. In fact, survey number 2, and I will, it's broken out here in a separate category now, but these are the 3 surveys, and like I said, the first, I did this thing where I wanted them to be totally honest. Well, you know, nobody's honest with their name on it in law school, ever, okay? They're barely honest when they think you're not listening. So when you tell them, I want you to be totally honest, you have to make it anonymous. On the other hand, I knew if I didn't give them credit for this, there's no way I'm getting it back. So what I did was I had them, I gave them the option of emailing it to me if they didn't care if I knew who they were. And I put a manila envelope on one side, and I put a sheet on the other, and I said, okay, everybody come up, write your name down, put your survey in the envelope with the sheet up, without your name on it, so that it was anonymous, and they got their credit. So, and that worked really well, because I got almost all of them back. The only person we didn't get it back from was like the top student in the class. So we got a lot of really interesting feedback. One feedback said something like, and I'm just paraphrasing here, I'm going to talk to Professor Christie about being forced to take this class, which I thought was really funny, because it was Professor Christie that made it a part of her class. We actually were doing them a favor by allowing those students to take her class. And I really felt that that was something that I had to address. And so I said, you know, I want you always to tell us what your concerns are. You have concerns, you please talk to Professor Christie, talk to Margaret, talk to myself. Talk to us if you have concerns. But I might think twice about telling Professor Christie you don't like the way she structured her class. Just, you know, FYI. So I think that really headed off a lot of antagonism on the part of some selected students who felt like they weren't apprised of exactly what they had to do. And the fact that this was actually the Jessup requirements for the class, not our requirements. And so that, you know, eased tensions a little bit, because I have to say it was a really interesting dynamic and vibe in the room a lot of the time. The third one, and I can show you this last one, we honestly felt like this was a disaster, okay? We got so much pushback from the students. We didn't know how they were doing on their memorials. They were all stressed. They were, you know, not yelling at us, but I tell you, some of the comments on the surveys were, I mean, I wanted it, I welcomed it, and I asked for it, and I think it was really valuable that we got it, because I want those things out there. And I also wanted to tell them, you know, we're doing this because we want to make this class better. We can't do it without your input. And so I think that helped also. And then the fact that I was talking to them about it later, they knew that we had read it, that we were addressing it. So here's our final extra credit survey. And some things that just seemed really basic, but I just felt like, do they know this? At this point, really, can they use Blackboard? Do we need to do a tutorial on Blackboard? And the answer was yes. You know, I mean, these are some of the best students in our class, and they can't find things on Blackboard. And you know, that may be our feeling, that may be their experience, but the fact is, If I need to do a 3-minute tutorial on Blackboard and that will solve the problem, I'll do that. I'm happy to do that. Here was number 3, in which I figured out who was too busy to come and see us about their problems. So I actually want to show you the question. I gave them a lot of space to write whatever they thought. Here's the one. This is the one that I gave them. Like I said to them, they kept on and on about how they wanted face-to-face classes. I was like, I wasn't in law school that long ago. If somebody told me I didn't have to come to class, I would have thrown a party directly afterwards when I heard that. These students want to come to class. I don't know. I don't know if I trust that. So this is what I said. If I have to participate in a class where 3 meetings are online, I would prefer a class-length, 1-hour video of a professor speaking. And you can see here, this is what the media site is supposed to look like. They didn't actually view one, so I felt it was important to give them a screen capture. And then we have my little answers. And like I said, to a person, they wanted that. I was also able to clarify some points earlier in the semester when I asked them about Cali exercises. I couldn't tell from the question that I'd given them if they already had done Cali exercises or whether they were doing them for the first time in our class. And so I was able to refine a little bit who really did have what knowledge when they came in. We do a student survey of interest at the beginning, but that doesn't address all of these kind of technology issues. Universally hate the textbook, any textbook, all textbooks. Why? Too expensive. In fact, I got some of the most interesting feedback on this answer because basically what they said was, I was able to do this class without looking at the textbooks or doing the readings. Now, when I was in law school, I didn't do my readings. I answered the questions out of, law lines or whatever. But I didn't tell the professor that. They killed me or something, So what we actually did was we have a teaching excellence series, and I went to a presentation by one of the award winners in economics, and she said, I made the book optional. I was like, in economics? Yeah, apparently you can do that. So I thought, if she can do it, we can do it. We have a couple on reserve. If they want to buy the book, they can. If they don't want to buy the book, okay. I'm hoping this whole we hate the book thing goes away because I don't want to hear about it anymore. And then we asked them about, what would you drop? What higher level topics would you drop? What would you add? And that's why we kind of got so many across the board things. We decided to go with the Captivate videos and choose your own set of 2. They're about a half an hour. So that's going to be another online class period later on where they get what they want. So we try to be really responsive to the students based on these really detailed surveys. So like I said, that's why we have Submit, that's why we have Media Site now, and that's why we're doing all these different things. But you'll be amazed, I couldn't believe anybody filled all this stuff out. But, that's the magic of extra credit. So, basically, once we finish this right here, we pick back up with face-to-face class. The Jessup class is over. We own them until the final. Here's the topics that we're going to let them choose from. And it's a pretty good cross-section because people tend to want their own area. And we're also going to do a peer review of the wiki pages rather than having a presentation, which is what we had last time, because we decided that having other people stare at your page and talk about it would be more of an incentive to work harder than for you to get up there and just, here's my page. So this is our hybrid face-to-face Frankenstein class with many, many technologies. But I really am excited about it because what happened was we finished the class and we just said, oh my God, what did we do? We gave it a try. I mean, Margaret had thrown in the towel. I was like, yeah, I think we should break it apart again. We met with Donna Christie, and I said I wanted to meet with her right away because I wanted to know how, what we were going to do about this class, because we just felt like the students hated us and everything. And what we heard was the memorials were better. This year, actually, they had a top 10 memorial in the southeastern region. Professor Fernando Tesson, who is the person who judges the oral part, which we didn't even have on our radar, he said the oral was better too. So that was kind of an unintended consequence that I think the students having taken the class and having to talk about these topics, whereas they might have never even touched them before, actually probably had more confidence in what they were saying or what they were talking about or knowing the sources, or I don't even know why. But those were two consequences of putting the class together. And so there was no way it was getting broken apart. So we're actually, we bow to what's best for the students, and we really want our Jessup team to do well. It's a tough competition, it's an international competition, and the way it's structured, we really want to make sure that they do the best they can. They know that they can come to us with questions and research problems. So we're doing it again in the fall, and I've already got my survey questions put together based on our new technologies. So that's our class. I hope that you were able to get a little something out of it. I always say that I never knew half the time why I was sitting in a class when I heard something that I could use in this class. It had, at the time I didn't even know why I had thought of it or I had learned it. And then a light bulb went on, and I was able to incorporate it. So I hope we can do the same for you. Okay. And now we get to go maybe win prizes. Well, thank you for coming, and safe travels.